All right, guys, good afternoon once more, and welcome to another edition of Google Channels Beams Google Plus Hangout. Today, we're looking at the effect of social media on political campaigns. Of course, social media was created some years ago as a platform for friends to share joyous moments with their families and even sometimes adversaries. But being a political time at this moment, we're trying to see how it has affected politics, not only in Nigeria but around the world. I have Akachukwu. Akachukwu, you are in Brighton in England. Blossom, you're in Coventry. Rose in Coventry, and Stanley is here in Lagos, just like me. Stanley, I'll give you the home advantage, as they say in football, to begin this conversation. So I'll come to you now to begin. What's your take on this? I mean, we've seen how Twitter has gone, even Facebook, even Google Plus. In fact, some even send videos on YouTube. But what effect has this had on the final day, on the D-Day, on election day? To what extent has it affected the way votes go?
All right, thank you for having me again. I do think that social media has made a clear big difference in how our political campaign are going, especially in this dispensation. A lot more politicians are using social media to communicate. The usual argument is that there are just 2 million Nigerians on Twitter and Facebook, and that the impact is not that far. I use myself as an example. I talk to friends, I talk to family members who don't use any of those social media. My twin brother doesn't use Twitter. He's barely on Facebook, but we talk a lot about things that are happening. So some of the information I gather off social media, I also share with people who are not online. So I think that social media, yes, it has reached very a minor population, but the impact is enormous. We have seen it used for social causes that have led to changes. We have seen government change policies due to actions of people on social media. So yes, I think that it has made a difference in this dispensation, and on the final day, it will play a bigger role than we have seen already.
All right, that's your take. So now let me come back to the ladies. Akachukwu, you should hold on a bit. I'll come to the ladies. Rose, you're a first-time caller. Actually, you should have started this conversation, but for the issue of home advantage. So I'll come to you now. You heard Stanley. He just said he thinks it's actually working. But what do you think, in your own opinion? What's the effect you think this will have, if it will have any?
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the privilege. At least it's always the saying goes ladies first. So I'm quite glad to be the first lady out. Actually, just like Stanley said, he's on the right idea. Social media may be reaching out to very few population of Nigeria, but I tell you, social media is reaching out to the active few, which are the youths, the vibrant few, the youths, and there is no one that doesn't know about Twitter, either Twitter, Facebook, and so many others. Actually, a lot of people don't used to, from my idea, a lot of people don't used to know very much of what is happening in our political arena. But with the development of the social media, a lot more people are getting involved. And with the internet being easily accessed from any part of Nigeria where you are, even any part of the world in general, people are making more input, and they are being influenced by what is said in the social media. Although I have my reservations in some of the approach a lot of people take, because I look out for where people will make more constructive criticism, of what is happening in order to help our political condition in the country to improve. And I find I don't really appreciate how some people go about it. But in general, social media is really helping. It's helping, and the informations are getting to the right audience. And I think it's having great impact in our political situation in Nigeria right now. So that's what I have to say.
All right, Rose. Thank you. But just before we continue, can you please tilt your camera a bit?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, this is more like it.
Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay.
All right.
All right, great. Blossom, let me come to you. If you look at the fact that some people are now saying that those who are on Twitter have their paymasters, or they have so to speak now, they have paymasters, and at the tail end, those who will be voting also have their political leaders whom they look up to and might, at the tail end, take directions from those people to vote a particular candidate. How do you think this will play out, looking at the fact that on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google Plus, on YouTube, Instagram, there are quite a couple of campaigns going on, and then at the other side, you have political godfathers also pushing their own kind of campaign. How do you think we can balance this? How will this play out at the end?
Okay, I've actually been, that's actually a very interesting observation. I've been involved in quite a number of political campaigns, on social media at different times and in different electoral processes. What I believe is this. Politicians, in their campaign strategy should not focus solely on one and leave out the other. What we see oftentimes is this. Most politicians might want to focus on social media, but then they seem not to to consider the fact that most often, although the tide is changing now, most young people that are usually hugely vocal on social media, they don't vote at the grassroots level, and that's the sad thing. So what I always advise, if I'm giving recommendations, is this. You can come on social media to campaign, as part of your political strategy, but what you gain from there is name recognition. I always say that. You get what is called name recognition, but you don't get actual votes. Because at the end of the day, even if you've paid people, online influencers to talk about you on social media, at the end of the day, sadly, we still have the stomach infrastructure problem at the local level. And those are the people that vote. Those are the people that would rather stay under the sun and under the rain to make sure that they vote as an appreciation of the bag of salt or the bag of rice they got a night before the election. So if you are doing your political strategy and you're focusing on social media, yes, what would happen is everybody will get to know you. Everybody will get to know that you are actually coming out for this particular electoral position or office. But at the end of the day, you will not be able to get the votes that you're actually canvassing for. And then secondly, another thing I also suggest is coming on social media is also a way of sort of protecting your votes, in the sense that if you already get that name recognition that you sought for, if your objectives were clear from day one on social media, what happens is this. When the actual election is going on, we have a lot of citizen observers these days who are actually in the field monitoring what is happening, or those actually went to vote. So somehow, if they see things going out of way, probably they see rigging or ballot snatching or things that are actually against the electoral law, they'll they post this update on social media. And if people are already aware of you, via name recognition on social media, it's easy for them to escalate this conversation and oftentimes even blow it out of proportion. So you cannot focus on one and ignore the other. But if I am a politician, trust me, I would not use social media. I would just focus on the grassroots level, do my campaigning there, and actually deliver on my campaign promises if I actually get the votes I sought for in the first instance.
Blossom, thanks for that. You have given us another dimension to this conversation. But I'll come to you, Akachiku. Akachiku, you can hear me. I'm coming to you, and I want to take you on the fact that internet. Rose actually made mention of internet being available, but if you look at the fact that internet in Nigeria, in a way, is a problem, and some people in the grassroots, now those at the grassroots, don't have access to internet, don't have, even if they have the mobile phones, maybe your uncle in the city sends you a phone, but the connection now to that area, let's say somewhere down in the village, how would you now think this will play out? Because if they don't have that connection to be on social media platforms that politicians are using to campaign, how do you think they will get that message?
Uh, it will be difficult to pass the messages across to people in remote locations, but I would I would say new phones and technologies in the market, which we know there are very smartphones in terms of compatibility and how it can enable one having access to the internet has quietly got cheaper than what it used to be. Many young people are getting on more on Facebook and other platforms that they usually communicate or exchange ideas. But then I have a problem with the use of social media in the country. Political campaigns are actually a means of mobilizing support or persuasion used in persuading or pushing for a particular idea, political idea or ideology, when you have especially the political actors coming together to debate on issues. But that is lacking in our country. It's usually one-sided, just like Blossom had mentioned earlier. You only see possibly a particular politician making use of the platform when the other one is not making use of the platform. It creates this unbalance and one-sided campaigns, and that is not even debated. Politicians do make statements that we know will be very difficult to implement in terms of what we have on ground. But then the social media doesn't take it up, and the opponents do not take it up, or the masses, because they will never want to. The people that are on social platforms don't engage them on those ideas to debate how possible those ideas would be executed. I think that is an area where social media is just trying to improve people's image, which I think that's sometimes what they want to do, and that doesn't change anything on ground in terms of how people would vote at the end. Rather, sometimes they use it for other selfish benefits and religious bigotry, pushing of ethnicism and all that.
All right, excellent. I will now continue. We have Kaladi Kaide, but we can't hear him. We can see his picture. Kaladi, you've been trying to get on this hangout. We do appreciate your enthusiasm and your drive. I mean, your commitment to come back to YouTube. I hope you just join us along the line. Stanley, I'll be coming back to you because you know, this whole thing has now brought about, just like normal campaigns, you now have let me put it in the social media language, goons. You have PDP goons, you have APC goons, you have people belonging to political parties and support politicians. On the normal side, at times it gets bad, but on social media aspect as well, it gets bad sometimes. But how well does that go? I mean, because we look at the fact that at times you even go as low as insulting each other's candidates or yourselves. I mean, it now takes away the prestige, the so-called prestige that comes with these platforms. How do you see that playing out? I mean, looking at where the elections are just close by, how does that add up? Hold on, Stan. Hold on.
Yeah, okay, my mic is on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that sometimes it actually do get out of hand, and that we have seen instances where the campaigners for a particular candidate go all vicious and attack those who question whoever they support. Like every other platform on the street, people fight. People fight on behalf of their candidates. You see thugs who fight or those that are not supporting their candidates. We've seen that happen in Osun. We have seen that happen in Ikiti. It's not just about social media. It's something that once it's election, once emotions run high, people, once in a while can lose their cool. But it doesn't just take away the fact that there's a role for social media in the election. I understand all of the fears that has been expressed. I have all those fears, and I've had my own encounter with some of these instances. But I also think that social media can play a big role. I work in an organization where we are what we are today because there was social media, and all of our work revolves around social media, and we have done things that has led to action. People have taken action and acted on it. I always remember how the first subsidy scam when the first subsidy removal went down, and how people realized that $1 billion has been budgeted for feeding in Aso Rock. And once that was pushed out, people were talking about it. People were telling their friends about it because they heard it on social media, and they heard that, oh, $1 billion has been budgeted. A whole lot of the people who were screaming on the street during that protest, saying, oh, the president is spending $1 billion on feeding, didn't read the budget. They heard it from somebody who heard it on social media. So yes, there are good, there are bad. We can't then say because it's bad, we should throw it all away. But the point I would like to emphasize is the role that social media influencers play in all of this, right? Look, if I have influence and you think that you can pay for my influence to convince somebody, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. If you follow American politics, there are those who call themselves Democratic strategists and Republican strategists. It's their work to just push out their party propaganda. It's their work just to push out party propaganda. And some of these people will deliberately tell lies to further their own interest. It's politics. But the good thing about social media is that it's self-correcting. As soon as you post a false information, as soon as one person with the right information sees it, it's so very quick to correct that impression. So I don't think that we should all look at the negative. Yeah, there has been very, 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 very low moments of social media where outright falsehood has been, sent out. But there has also been very good moments where, as soon as those falsehoods are pushed out, people are all on out. And I agree with Akachukwu when he said people are pushing religious and tribal sentiment. Look, when this whole season started, at one point in our lives, all we discussed was religion and tribe. Not just people on social media. Not just people, even the candidates themselves spent more time talking about religion and tribe than talking about, I don't have electricity in my house as we speak. The road to my house is bad. There's no water, right? Those are the things that will interest me and interest almost every other person on this platform at the moment. But we spent more time talking about Amibu. Blossom is Hausa. I'm not going to vote Blossom's candidate. As in, how does it improve the electricity in Blossom's house or electricity in my own house? Nobody cared about that. So I think that we're in a learning process, and we're in a curve where, if you compare last election to this election, there's been a huge improvement in the process. So I think that we improve. We can't say it's all bad. There are good moments. I think I would say that there are good moments.
Okay, you made mention of America, so let me just go up to Rose, who is in the United Kingdom. If you look at past elections and the role social media played in terms of gathering results, at times you could see that television stations could even project using social media. They could project results of, certain places and even certain elections and all that. How do you see that playing in Nigeria? Do you think we can do that? Your mic is okay now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I actually appreciate the point Stanley is making. I believe in development, and I believe that Nigeria is coming up. We have lots of challenges. Yeah, my sister Blossom mentioned that what is done in the social media has little or more to add to the what is happening in the actual life, in the sense that people in the villages or the the larger population of masses may not, that the population of masses that are supposed to vote are not really on the social media, and those that are on the social media might not be the ones voting. But I must tell you that the media is having great impact in the way things are moving. Campaigning, politics is all about communication. If you have it inside you, you don't say it out. Nobody knows what you have inside you. Nobody knows what you can do. People that are on the social media might not go to vote, but I believe you me, a lot of people go to vote because they have been influenced by what is being said on the media. And media has to do with me, my own view. It's not just about the use of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or so. It has to do with even the television, the radio, all sort of media. There are all social activities is going on there. So I try not to limit it to only what is said on through Twitter or Facebook. I believe that even in the results of election, it will still have great impact, in our social media, or maybe say our social media platform will have great impact on how these informations are being disseminated. Like Stanley said, when I get information, I talk to someone about it. I'm not sure to what level that information will go. That person I talk to will talk to someone. The other person will say, okay, I think I had it. By the time two people confirms the same information, it sounds like being the truth. A lot of us in Nigeria may have be aware of what is happening in the polity because of the social media. Even those in the grassroots, they may not have the internet in their disposal all the time. They may not be using it, but they have people, friends, relations that are in town using this, and when they get to the village, they talk to them and they decide. It shapes their decision and their way of life and the way they see politics, and it also helps them in making decisions on who to vote to and who not to vote to. What is the impact of our governance in development of our country? Yes, it might not be said all. It might not be viewed through the social media. The impact might not be expanded on through the social media, but the little that has been talked, believe you me, it's having great effect. We might just be thinking that Nigeria has not gotten to that level where social media information reliance on social media should be emphasized. But I tell you, it's a gradual process. You might be in your room tweeting and thinking that, okay, it's just reaching out to very few people that are responding to you. Believe me, once you have released this information in the media, it stays there for almost life. Anybody that copies it, it stays in that person's database for a lifetime. So the social media goes a long way, and the information that will continue to affect our thinkings, our behaviors, influence our culture in a way, and the way we think about people, the way we perceive politics. So I believe that Nigerian youths should be very careful in what they say in the social media. If you're thinking that the government should do certain things to better Nigerian situation, please bring out your leadership skills in social media. It touches a lot of people's life. It's not just about you and the friends that are following you. A lot more people will connect to you tomorrow. Even the younger children that have not known anything about social media right now, they will connect tomorrow and they will see all the arguments you have done and how you have actually added in developing this country. I know that a lot of people don't know that leadership is about who you are at the moment. What influence are you having on people at the moment? In your family, in your immediate environment. It's not about who is there in the Aso Rock or who is there in the government house. It's about you. Being a leader is what you're saying in social media makes you a leader. We shouldn't take it for granted. We shouldn't think that it's not having impact. A lot of people, even in the villages, with those smartphones that are coming up, we tweet with our friends right inside the villages. They have Facebook going on. I don't believe that social media has much limitation as we see it. It has very big impact, and a lot more people are connected. And information, if we decide to use social media to spread any information, it will get to the right people. It will get to everybody, either directly or indirectly. So we need to be aware of this, and we need to be more critical and constructive in what we say in the social media. I still have my reservations, but our youth needs to get educated in what to say, because all this forms the shaping of our country, and that is your leadership skill is being portrayed anytime you're talking through the social media. So that's what I have to add.
All right, great. Blossom, you were nodding your head in concurrence with some of the things she was saying. I believe you have something to add to what she just said.
Okay, the part that actually got me really, really excited about what Rose shared is about the leadership at your immediate space. You know, I've never hidden the fact that one day I'm going to get to the National Assembly. So even as at 10 years before now, that has shaped the way I talk, the way I act, and the way I use my keyboard, especially on social media. I just tweeted something now that the news vendor might forget, the news consumer might forget, but the internet will never forget. You know, so even as people are quick to to bring out their gadgets and their devices to make to post updates on social media, whether truths or lies or half truths, it's very, very important for them to also understand that they don't know where they are heading to tomorrow. So the things you say today might be the things that your political opponents would use against you in future. So if we all have this kind of thinking in ourselves, then it's easy to regulate, to individually regulate the social media, not the government regulation, which I support, by the way. So it's easy to regulate the social media and also to self-correct ourselves even before we post an update. Money is fleeting. It's true that in America, like Stanley said, there are lobbyists and there are political strategists that they are being paid to push out information that would champion the cause of their preferred candidate. But I always insist on, even if you are paid to do something, always stand for the truth, because I don't know how to fix this. They are professionals, so they know how to go about it and whitewash even when they are saying half truths. But on an individual basis, what I see a lot of young Nigerians do is they just receive payments to champion the cause of a candidate and they just push it out. They don't question because they feel that they've been paid to do this. So they just go ahead and push it out the way that they have been instructed to push it out. But the challenge in doing this is you think you are getting paid to do something, but you don't know where you are headed to tomorrow. You know you are pushing out lies, you know you are pushing out half-truths, and you still go ahead to do it because you want to get a remuneration, you want to get payment for it. What happens to your person? So if I'm in a position to collect money from someone to actually push his or her cause on social media, I wouldn't be much interested about the sum of money I'll collect. I'll be more interested about you, the candidate, giving me full permission to post things as I see it fit, and not for me to post things as you deem fit. Because if I put myself in that cage, then I'm going to use my platform to publish things that are untrue. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't fall back on the candidate because everybody believes that all politicians are actually corrupt. It will fall back on me at the end of the day. So I cannot afford to do that. It would be too expensive for me to do. So I think it all boils down to personal reflections and personal convictions about doing right and about doing wrong.
All right, Blossom, but at the same time, do you think social media can be used to project results of elections in Nigeria?
Yes, it can. There's this group led by some guys in the UK, some Nigerians, for the future. Sometime early this year, they ran this online poll about the outcome of the APC presidential primary, and I was just going through their result because some few days ago, immediately after the primaries, actually, they posted their result, and lo and behold, it was actually exactly what they got as a result. That was the result at the APC primaries. But I wouldn't be quick to just attribute that to social media, because they expanded it a bit. They used text messages as well to get their opinion poll, and the scope of the poll was actually quite huge. I know NOI polls, their scope is 1,000, but I think they exceeded that 1,000 limit. And it's at the end of the day, their findings tallied with exactly what the presidential, the APC delegates put out at the end of the day. So we're getting to that stage where it might be easy to believe that the findings on social media as regards the viability of a particular candidate can actually play out in real life. But I wouldn't still suggest that a politician should dedicate more time on social media. If I'm to put it in percentages, then I think a politician should dedicate 70% of the time in the field, at the grassroots level, reaching the people directly, and then 30% on social media, just to create a form of balance.
Okay, Stan, I said Stan, Akachukwu, let me move on to you now. 30-70, that percentage is quite uneven. Do you agree with Blossom on that? Akachukwu, can you hear me? All right, I think Akachukwu is having issues with his internet. I'll move over before he gets done. Stan, I would leave that question for him to come back and answer. But then, in the meantime, there are also other effects that I may not have highlighted in the course of this discussion, but that are going to also have a major influence on politics, of course, using social media now. What, in your own opinion, do you think are some of these effects? Can you come again?
Yeah, I didn't get the question. Can you repeat the question again?
There might be some of the effects that social media has on political campaigns that I may not have highlighted. In your own opinion, what could some of these be?
Oh, well, I really think that to an extent, it's not just about its impact on the elections. It's also about the conversation around the elections. That the social media has changed to a large extent. At some point, I remember complaining that this election has not been about the issues that interest me. It has been about everything I don't want to hear. But after a while, I realized that the tide changed a bit, because one candidate started to talk about the issues I care about, and it seemed like every other person was not talking about the issues. But I think that the day that I really would see the biggest impact of social media is on voting day. Actually, on voting day, I know we have been briefed a bit on what the situation room will do, how it will collate live reports from all sorts of location. I also know that the police is doing something very similar. They want to monitor security situation using social media. I also have been privileged to meet with officials from Facebook, and they are activating a particular feature for Nigeria ahead of this election. It will be announced officially sometime in January, to also help monitor trends and predict the way the election. They have the detail. I'm not in a position to disclose, but they are going to activate a particular feature ahead of this election. It will be the first time they will be activating that election feature in any country in Africa. So I think that in the long run, we'll see a trend. We'll see a trend where social media will become even more important. I also know that Facebook is going to run a training for politicians on how to use the Facebook. I remember one of the things that Blossom has said that I totally agree with is that the elections are not won on social media. And I totally agree with what Blossom said. The elections are not won on social media. And I know that social media is about every Nigerian who has access to the internet, especially those abroad, right? So, and who don't have a voter's card, who don't have any role to play, as I talk. So I totally agree that the election can't and won't be won on social media. But what will happen is that social media will influence. I'm not saying an election will be won. I'm specific about the influence of social media on election. It will determine, it will sway people's votes. I'll give and I'm going to name names. Atiku is not somebody I would have considered worthy of my votes, right? But since he came on Twitter and Facebook, and I've had a bit of interactions with him, and I listened because he was there, and I could, I knew that there was an interaction going on. I listened closely. So you can stay aloof. You can decide to avoid social media completely, right? And I might not be opportune to watch NTA news. Or channels news. I might be in the traffic during all of this news, and I not get to hear you. But I know that if I'm in traffic, I have access to my smartphone. I can read tweets. I can Facebook, right? So if I miss what is on TV, and you have also put what you have said on TV on social media, you have communicated your point across all class of citizens. But if you focus on one channel and leave the other, and it's important to that Blossom is making that point. Do not leave one channel and focus on one channel. If you base your campaign on social media, I can't look. You'll be laughed at, because social media is mean. It can be fierce in how it responds to defeat and victory. So if you focus all of your attention on social media and you lose the election, social media will laugh at you. Right, so there is the footwork, there is door-to-door knocking, there is grassroots, there is going to the villages to meet my grandmother, there is going there to sit down with her and eat fufu and speak the language she understands. There is the social media to talk to me who haven't been to the village in a while. Right, so if you miss the two and leave one aspect and focus on one aspect, you will see the impact on election day. And I think that is what we will see in this next election. Those that will lose out, some of them will lose out for abandoning social media. Some of them will lose out for overusing social media and abandoning the field work. So it's going to be a tricky situation, but I see it as a learning opportunity for us as well to improve in future. But please, Blossom, if you're going to run for election, you cannot do it without social media. I'll be after you. I promise you.
All right, Blossom, that's a warning, or I don't know if it's a warning or an advice, any which way it goes, but just take it however you want to take it, and take it seriously. But I would still, let me just come to you, Blossom, and looking at the fact that social media security, I don't think we have anything as such. How do you think that will play in sharpening the way such conversations or such campaigns? Because even the normal campaigns, they have a limit. You have a limit to which you can campaign. There are things you can say, there are things you can't say, there are things you can do, and there are things you can't do in the process of campaigning. To what extent do you think having a social media police will shape the way at which these campaigns are going on social media?
Well, the thing about social media is that it's largely unregulated. It's left at the user's discretion to know how far he or she can go, or how decent he or she wants to be, or how indecent he or she wants to be. So as at today in Nigeria, there is no regulation to say you can't do this or you can't do that. Even INEC, even INEC Nigeria, I believe in the field, they have a specific campaign window. They say you can start campaigning from now, as in open campaign, not consultations and all that. But then on social media, you can start at any time you want, and nobody can actually use that against you. I remember some months ago, I think that was last year or early this year, not very specific, when the calls for social media regulation was made, and the East instance was on bringing culprits to book for sharing false information. which is actually a very good development, and I supported it at that point. But then we cannot hide the fact that the interpretation of what is false can also be relative. So what I believe is false can also not be seen as false by some other person based on his or her positionality at that particular time. So it's bottom line, it boils down to individuals being guided firstly and foremostly their own interpretation of what is right and what is not right.
All right, so we're just about wrapping up this conversation now. So I'll give you guys just the opportunity to say your last word before we close this conversation. Blossom, let's start with you.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. I would want to close by actually encouraging the bulk of users on social media who happen to be young Nigerians. Self-discovery, personal discovery is the first and fundamental thing that would help anybody's sojourn on social media. For instance, I see myself as someone who has somewhere that she's headed to. And because I know this, I cannot allow myself to become a pawn or a goon, like you rightly say, in the hands of a politician who, if we follow the laws of nature properly, who is already on his way out of the political scene, and I'm just about to get in there. So I cannot allow them to more or less distort the future that I'm looking forward to by my own inability to be my own person, and allow them to use my my platform in sharing mischief on their behalf. So if young Nigerians can think this way and realize that they actually owe it to themselves and to the next generation to be their own person as of today, to have a mind of their own, to question, even when you are paid to do something, question that thing. If you question it, trust me, okay, let me give an instance. There's this incident whereby people that have been actively supporting a particular candidate on social media, when it was time for him to have an offline engagement, he did not use any of them. He used a young man that have been questioning his party's integrity over time. So what that tells me is that if you put yourself in the position where they realize that they don't need you anymore, all they need is to give you money and you speak good of them, they will not respect you. And if they cannot respect you, you cannot demand accountability from them. So that's my conclusion. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much, Blossom, Nadim. Rose Agabalu, let me come to you for your own last word.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my advice is that the youth should actually be the leaders they're supposed to or they look up to. There are no other time you can be a leader if not in your present situation. The use of social media is supposed to give us an opportunity to portray who we are, our ideology of life. So you need to be guided in whatever you say, just like Blossom has said. Whatever you do in the social media, know that it shows who you are really. And the change we are expecting to have in our country cannot come from nowhere. After all said and done, the change has to start from you as an individual. And I implore all of us, especially those that are very used to using the social media, to use it to the maximum at a particular time and know that I'm using this social media as a platform to shape our country the way you really want it to be. Let's start it now. Be the leader that you really want to be through the social media. And with that, we are heading to the right direction. Thank you.
All right, Stan.
For
Sorry,
those
Stan,
of us,
can you come
oh
again?
yeah, my mic.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm saying that my own last word on this is that for those of us who are active on social media, especially the politically active users of social media, should also realize that when you support a particular candidate, you are there to convince others on why they are viable, and not to abuse and fight. If I say I do not like your candidate and you tell me that I'm a fool, uh, you are only confirming that I cannot vote for your candidate. But if I say I do not like your candidate and you ask me why, and we engage in the conversation and you convince me to change my mind, you have actually done a good job for your candidate. But when you engage in fight and abuse and shout and ridicule and bully, you do not convince people. You end up hurting your candidate. So if you're in a position to campaign for somebody, do not see it as a fight with those who do not agree with you. See it as an opportunity to win more people to your side. I think that is my own last take. And I should also encourage that in the heat of election day voting, we should refrain from sharing information that will lead to violence and chaos. Do not say provocative things. Do not share false information, because those are the things that actually would lead to violence on the street. Because you say it here, and I'm with my friends, and I hear it, and I tell them, I will start to burn cars and destroy things without confirming the information, and we have reacted on impulse. You have also, you that shared the information have led to what we share in the blame in whatever it results in. So that's my take on how we use social media ahead of the election. I think we'll have an interesting election season personally.
All right, Stan, thank you very much. So just about when we're wrapping up, we're joined by Fela. Fela, we can't see you. If you would put on your camera, we'll just take your word and before we close. Good afternoon, first and foremost. Can you hear me? Okay, apparently he can't hear me. I think he's just going to observe. But for now, we would have to just call this conversation a wrap. Those of you who are watching on the stream, you can just send your tweets, and we'll look at them also and make them a part of the program when it eventually airs on Monday at 3:30 p.m. on Channel Television. Thank you all once more for joining the Hangout. Lot of Nadim, you are in Coventry in the United Kingdom. Rose Agabalu, if I got that right, you're also in Coventry in the United Kingdom. Stanley Achonu is in Nigeria, just like me, Mr. Matthias. Thank you all once again very much for joining this Hangout, and until I see you next time, goodbye.